Welcome, welcome. We'll give people about one more minute to come on in, and then we will get started with our webinar today, Equip Your General Education Teachers to Support English Learners.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. We have a couple more people joining in the chat and in the waiting room. Oh, okay, we'll go ahead and get started so we don't run out of time today. Welcome. My name is Gracie Alley. I am the Associate Director of Education here at TESOL International Association. And I'm very excited to have you all joining us today for the Equip Your General Education Teachers to Support English Learners webinar. A quick little meeting agenda. We're going to be talking first about making some connections, the language state of the union, SWELL leadership foundations, which we'll discuss in a little bit. What SWELL stands for, non-evaluative peer instructional coaching, an action plan, and key considerations. So I wanted to start with just this little foundation of what SWELL is. SWELL stands for the School-Wide English Learning Model. And it is based on the idea that we are all members of the animal kingdom and that academic language is an equity issue, that in order for our students to be successful and safe and happy, they need to have a certain language in order to do that. And this photo is from one of the authors of the TESOL Teacher Leadership for School-Wide English Learning book. This is her young daughter in Brazil at the Iguazu Bird Sanctuary. And you'll see on the slides here, and also if you have seen the SWELL book, you'll see that red bird a lot, and that represents these macaws. These are Maggie and Cindy. They're two macaws that live in the Iguazu Bird Sanctuary in Brazil, and they adopt rollaway eggs. And when you go to visit them, the caretakers will tell you to be quiet, that you're not supposed to talk around Maggie and Cindy, is to be very quiet. And this is because they have lived now their whole life in the sanctuary, because when they first got there, people would go visit them and they would say arara, arara, which is Portuguese for macaw. So because so many people were saying arara to Maggie and Cindy now think that that is what they are supposed to say. So they are unable to release Maggie and Cindy into the wild because they don't have the correct language to be integrated with the macaw communities in Brazil. Other macaws would take them as threats because they are unable to communicate. So this is just a little reminder of how important language is in order for us to be successful and safe in different spaces. So a global perspective, and in addition to that, of why language is so important. We're currently living in the greatest global refugee crisis in history. Each day, 44,400 people are forced to leave their homes, resulting in 68.5 million displaced people worldwide. So we are seeing a large increase of multilingual English learners, or ELs, who are in need of that language to be safe and successful in the spaces that they're in. So this is a image of a very common thing we see on Facebook groups or support groups for teachers. This one was from the Leading ELs Facebook group saying, "Help, I'm a first-year ELL teacher, and they are asking me to present a PowerPoint on supporting vocab development, making sure they understand content and supporting decision and interaction discussion and interaction through lessons in grade level classrooms. Any advice or resources I should be looking into?" We see this a lot in our different forums. Teacher training programs do not typically prepare students or future teachers to deliver professional development. Yet this is frequently part of the other jobs assigned bucket for EL or English learner teacher responsibilities. A SWELL, or the School-Wide English Learning Program, recognizes the need to provide training for these teachers so that they have the skills, knowledge, and dispositions and resources they need in order to deliver this PD and be that on-site expert for their colleagues. So a quick little think about your setting. We're going to look at these three different models, the direct/indirect service model for school-wide English learning. On the right side of my screen, we see direct service. This is your explicit targeted academic language support independent of the mainstream content. So this is the English language classroom with an ESL or EL/ELD teacher where the students are not learning language and content simultaneously, but are just focusing on academic language support. We move to the middle where we have differentiated service, which is explicit targeted academic language support in the mainstream classroom or while using mainstream content. This could be maybe your push-in model or co-teaching model would be your differentiated service. And then our third one is indirect service, explicit targeted academic language instruction in all mainstream classrooms and lessons. So this indirect service is the goal of school-wide English learning. The goal is to then have those, all your teachers, your history teacher, your math teacher, your science teacher, all being able to provide that explicit academic language instruction for their students across the day so that our English learners are not simply getting that explicit instruction in one period, but getting it across the entire day. So I want us to think for a minute about our school or district and just share in the chat. Which of these models do you feel like your school or district is doing really well? Where would be an area of growth? So take a minute and you can just drop in the chat or feel free to come off mute and share with the group, what you guys think. How's your school doing with these three different service models?
Hi, my name is Renee Minocci. I'm an MLL specialist in New York City. I think certainly at the school that I've been working with, our goal is to equip all teachers, no matter if they're bilingual or not, or special ed certified or TESOL certified or not, with the tools in order to give that indirect service, as you said, that explicit academic language throughout all subjects. That's certainly our goal. But I do think there is still a struggle with the mindset that, I'm not bilingual, so I don't need to, I'm not responsible for the services, the language services of that student. Whereas, as you said, like it's a matter of equity, and we want to make sure that all teachers, gen ed or not, believe that it is a matter of equity and it's students' right to have that at all times, to have a teacher with that toolkit.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. And I see in the chat, Melissa sharing, I see a lot of schools doing the direct model, like the standalone, some differentiated service. Also another direct service. Yeah, when we talk to either teachers or school leaders, administrators, direct service tends to be the one that people are like, yeah, we're doing that pretty well. Differentiated service, some maybe 50-50, some feel are doing it well, some feel like it could be an area of growth. And then the indirect service is obviously the one that is the biggest area of growth. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing in the chat and sharing out. So, really quick, just a little look at where some of these swell coaches, and we'll be talking about what swell coaching looks like in a minute, But what these school-wide English learning coaches, where they're located so far, these are the locations of where people have been trained to be swell coaches. It's kind of smattering over mostly the north part of the United States currently. But yeah, just a fun little map to see where they're located. Swell, again, or the school-wide English learning model, addresses these three things. First, it addresses the fact that we need to do a better job supporting English learners. And it does this in many ways, but mostly with, ELs are the fastest growing subgroup of students in the nation, yet most teachers never had coursework that specifically addresses language teaching. Swell utilizes the local expertise of the ELD or ELN or EL teacher to address this gap in knowledge. The second is the fact that most language learners spend less than an hour of day with a trained ELD teacher. And then Swell addresses this by preparing ELD teachers to mentor their colleagues in the form of professional development, facilitation, and one-on-one support so that language learners find success in all classrooms throughout the day. And third, best practices in teacher professional learning. Swell is based on the research related to what makes teacher PD effective. It is sustained, relevant to context, collaborative, includes coaching, provides feedback, and engages teachers in active learning. The Swell coaching model is based on these leadership foundations, the base being distributed and shared leadership structures and systems. And then building upon that, valuing and having teacher leadership built in. And then lastly, the Swell coaching, which we'll be talking about in a minute. There are many benefits for distributed leadership. Research shows us that schools and organizations that use a distributed leadership model have less conflict, more consensus, more trust, more cohesion than teams that do not. So it definitely benefits everyone to have this shared leadership model. And quickly, a definition of what is teacher leadership. Teacher leadership for us is the mobilization of the available attributes of teachers to strengthen student performance at the ground level. Teacher leaders work toward collaboration and towards leadership in the daily activities in the school. So the Swell model really taps into this and this key thing, available attributes of teachers. We know that in the classroom, in your schools and districts, you have English learner, English EL teachers, ESL teachers, whatever acronym your district or school uses. And they have the knowledge and capability and understanding of language acquisition and learning. So it's really tapping into that local expertise, that expertise in the building, and then having that be a support for the teachers, which would then strengthen student performance. The Swell model uses a framework for effective teaching by we structure the training around teacher dispositions, teacher knowledge, and skills as they relate to supporting language learners throughout the school in all classrooms. So this is a little bit different than some of your more traditional professional development. We focus on skills, knowledge, and dispositions because we believe all three are necessary to equitably serve and educate multilingual learners or ELs in the classroom. So in the Swell training, we focus on all three of these so that teachers, coaches, Swell coaches who are trained can then help support their colleagues in these three areas as well. A fundamental piece of the Swell or school-wide English learning program is non-evaluative peer instructional coaching. And I can't stress that non-evaluative peer more, any more than I possibly can. It is so important that these coaches be coming alongside and not be coming in as, reviewers or grading or submitting evaluations to administration, but really there as a peer to help support each other, learn from each other, and collaborate. So I want to share a couple of videos on the different coaching styles. So if you're familiar with Jim Knight and the different types of coaching from Jim Knight, you see some, similarity to these videos and those types. So the first coaching style is type 1. While we watch this short video, I just in the chat, share how you would describe this coaching style. So let me go ahead and pull up my screen. Okay. Oops. This is our first coaching style. So in the chat again, while we're watching, just share what would you say is this coaching style? I might not have shared my sound. I apologize. Let me reshare. Make sure I chose my sound. There we go. Why is it not letting me share now? Okay. I apologize. I'm having some challenge sharing my screen at the moment. Go ahead and get this. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, so for our first,
you get to skip the line and go right to your car and pick any car.
Okay. So in the chat, how would you describe this coaching style? Any thoughts on how you would describe this coaching style? Experiential learning? Yes, facilitating. Seems like the cow is impatient. I'd call it figure it out yourself and good luck, sink or swim. Perfect. These are all awesome. So now we're going to look at the gym night style 2, the second one. Let me go ahead and get this ready. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm having, oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm having some trouble with this audio again. Let's see if I can get it to fix. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is style 2. So again, I'd love to hear what you guys think as far as what would be this coaching style. Well, our first one, we said maybe was sink or swim. Let's see what we think about this one here. Okay.
No, let him do it himself.
Okay, I can confirm no cat was harmed in this video. How would you describe this coaching style? Take a second in the chat and share how you would describe this coaching style. Modeling. Give a man a fish. Direct. Guided practice. Awesome. Helicopter parent vibes. Yes, very well put. Okay, and then we're going to look at our type 3. So we're going to look at our third coaching style now again. And for this one, same thing. Take a minute at the end and we'll share how we would describe this coaching style as our third one.
Come here, Daisy. Oh, you almost got it. Oh, it's okay. Come on. Simon will show you. See? Oh. See? Simon, go show her again. Go show her.
Oh, I've been waiting to see your sister for many, many years.
I am the kid who stole my wig.
Yes, I'm Eli Wilson. I always felt about being so fond when I was young.
Oh my God, I might cry. That's so funny. Oh, you almost got it. Oh, come on. Daisy. Come on. Come on. Oh, sweetie. Simon's got you. Come on.
Why did they want to give me now cookies in the
Yeah! Yay! You're almost down. Come on. Oh,
Oh, okay, well, it was a kid.
good girl. Yay!
Okay, so that was our third one. So let's see in the chat. What do we think about this one? Partner-based or collaborative, positive reinforcement, modeling. Anyone else? Anything else you noticed about this last one? Encouraging and patient, very patient. Simon showed Daisy many times. Daisy is super brave and Simon is very patient. Yes, absolutely. Any last thoughts on this third version of, let's see, transformational coaching? Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, so after watching these are the three different types of coaching as defined by Jim Knight. Swell coaches, or the coaches that we are training here, we strive to be like Simon, patient, transformational, empowering, and just helping the person we're coaching, do it themselves by in ongoing support. So there are three approaches to coaching, and the Swell coaching for the Swell program works on the dialogic model, where we're a partner and where we have valuable information, but we need each other. I might have more information about language acquisition and how to work with English language learners, but I am not very good at math. So by working with a math coach, we are working on each other's strengths and growth areas and learning from each other. The decision making in this process is decided by the teacher that is being coached. They identify what they would like help with. They come to the coach and get support. We share expertise through dialogue. The focus is on the student. This is very important. The focus is not a coach coming into the classroom and saying, you should do this, you need to do this didn't work. The focus is really on the students. And this is what helps build rapport and that relationship of trust within the peer coaching model. Because I'm not in here to judge your teaching or you as a teacher or educator. We're here to just look and see what's happening in the classroom, or, what are my students doing and how can I help you help them? And then we always balance advocacy and inquiry. Swell coaching is based on 5 principles. The first is parity. Second is shared learning. 3, presuming positive intentions. 4, asking questions. And 5, goal-driven decision makings. First, the parity. We need to be coming in on this same level. I'm not here to evaluate you. I'm here to support you and work collaboratively. So that is a huge part of why we really emphasize peer coaching. The next is shared learning, really helping the colleagues see that the EL teachers have expertise to share, and that the colleagues have expertise to share. We all are, working together to learn together. Third is presuming, like I said, presuming positive intentions. This is very important to go into this knowing or presuming that everyone has good intentions. Everyone wants to help our students succeed, and everyone, that's where we're starting from. Asking questions, not shutting down conversations. And then again, like that goal-driven decision-making, using, you can use your data as your school provides or as you have availability, but setting goals and making decisions based off of those. So another quick video on what this can look like. Some of you might already have similar things like this happening in your schools, which if you do, that's amazing. And we would love to hear more about how it works at your schools, because again, it's always different in every location. But this is going to be a quick video of a teacher planning session where an EL teacher is involved in that planning, and we can kind of see how that impacts the planning going on. So let me go ahead and get this up. Okay.
It's a Wednesday morning at Mason Crest Elementary School in Annandale, Virginia. You won't find the 5th grade teachers in front of their students, though. They are at their weekly science planning meeting, preparing a lesson on the difference between vascular and non-vascular plants. Today's lesson was created by teacher Andrew Pratt.
A lot of the lesson is really unpacking the vocabulary word vascular, but then going a little bit deeper. What exactly does that mean? Like, how are they using their vascular tissue?
Nearly half of the students at Mason Crest are English language learners, or ELLs. All of the 5th grade teachers have ELLs in their classroom, so an important part of today's meeting will be making sure that the ELLs will be able to participate fully in the lesson. Looking at the lesson from an ELL point of view is Katie Padilla, a specialist in teaching English to speakers of other languages, or TESOL. She attends all 5th grade team meetings.
So I tend to look at it from the eyes of an English language learner. So I try to look for the things that would be confusing or the things that aren't as obvious and that would need some kind of support, and then I suggest changes.
Ms. Padilla wants to make sure that ELLs will be engaged from the beginning of the lesson. She has a small change that will make a big difference.
The vocabulary word that we're going to be focusing on today, vascular. Where have you heard this word before? What does this word mean to you?
I would almost start with the question, have you heard this word before? Because some have not. So if we change the question to just, have you ever seen the word vascular? Well, then it's safe, because some people might say yes, but it's okay if I answer that question no, because it's just a yes or no question. If the first question automatically counts me out, then I'm not going to be as engaged in the lesson.
Katie brings so many good ideas, and she's constantly serving as an advocate for our English learners. She will sit there and she'll say, you know, I don't know if this assessment is really appropriate. Let's try an alternative assessment for them. Or she'll say, you need to back up a little bit, provide them with some more background knowledge, and then you can move forward at the pace you would like to.
The role of the ESOL teacher is to help build the knowledge and the confidence in our classroom teachers and the entire staff in the school, so that they have the strategies, the tools in their pocket to be able to support English learners throughout the day.
Next, Ms. Padilla looks for ways to tie the content of the lesson, the difference between vascular and non-vascular plants, to students' background knowledge and experiences. She will be pre-teaching some concepts and vocabulary words to a small group of students at lunchtime and shares her ideas with the group.
Tubing is good. Another one that our pre-teaching group is going to see today is straw, like thinking of a straw as a tube that they see every day,
That's cool.
so that they can make the connection of like, what does a straw do?
We were talking about the stem for the when we were creating our diagram. I had students say, "Oh, this is like a straw." You know, when we're transporting water from the roots to the leaves and the flower.
And that actually is the connection they used in 4th grade. They told me yesterday. The 4th grade teacher said a straw for this time. Yeah. So that would be perfect.
Sometimes it's just that fresh pair of eyes who looks at something and says, oh, I think we could change this and make it better. And so I'm kind of that voice to say, oh, I think there's another way we can do this. And that doesn't always mean that that's the idea that's taken, but it's another idea that's presented that they can consider.
As we develop the lessons, she's there to give us those best practices that we can use for our language learners, so that every single person on the team is providing those bridging services that allow them to access their curriculum. What's nice is those strategies also work well for the entire classroom.
She's able to offer certain strategies, do professional development within that meeting. It doesn't have to take place somewhere distinct and separate or outside of the building. So that's why those planning meetings are so important, because when we're sitting at the table together, she can share it as we're developing the lesson, reflecting on it, and tweaking it so that we can best modify it to support the needs of all of our language learners, because we have English language learners in all 4 classrooms.
Thanks to a commitment to collaboration embedded at Mason Crest in all areas of instruction and professional development, every teacher can contribute and support ELLs, not just specialists like Ms. Padilla.
But it really helps our students, because when they see us collaborating and they see both teachers teaching these lessons, they're not looking at the ESOL teacher like she's coming in to support just 2 friends. She's in to really support all of them.
This collaborative model highlights a key belief at Mason Crest. ELLs are everyone's kids.
Our philosophy is a collective responsibility. English language learners belong to all of us. Every teacher belongs to every child in this school. So when we look at a student, it's not your student or my student. These are all of our students.
This video production.
Okay. So in the chat, I'd love to hear we'll go back here to our Swell coaching principles. What of these 5 principles, what did you see demonstrated in this video, if any? If you're comfortable sharing off mute or in the chat, you are welcome to do so. See, shared learning, absolutely. See several likes of shared learning. Parity for the ESOL teacher. This is fabulous. And this is one of the biggest and unexpected feedback pieces we've gotten from our Swell coaches, is that they feel, or they recognize that their expertise is being recognized in the building. And no longer, some of them would say previously they felt like they were just seen as an aide, but now in this role of Swell coach, they're getting more of that parity and being seen as, having that expertise to share. I see shared learning, ESOL teachers sharing the straw connection that was echoed, exactly, goal-driven decision-making. Awesome, fabulous. It is an excellent example of what this can look like in a small group setting when they're planning lessons. and just giving that feedback so that there's an extra layer of thought going into it with our English learners in mind. So all of these SWELL coaching principles are built on a foundation of trust. And so building trust is incredibly essential when starting this type of coaching program. Trust helps us to build and maintain a strong sense of morale. It increases motivation, increases loyalty, staff retention, and decreases stress. And so this really is a foundational piece of the coaching model that is necessary. And we can build trust in many different ways. First is being self-aware and reflective, thinking about how you're approaching situations, the types of questions you're asking, your body language, and how that can impact a relationship. You can be an active listener. This is crucial. Listening to understand, not listening to respond, using silence in a powerful way to allow for more thinking time and to give more space for responses. Taking the feedback you receive, both positive and negative, and responding to it. Again, assuming positive intentions. This is one that in every coaching relationship I've had, I set as like a starting norm, almost like we often do at the beginning of the school year with our students, where we set our guidelines or behavior expectations for ourselves in the classroom. I do a similar thing with those that I coach, and assuming positive intentions is always there. Because it can be hard. It can be hard to sometimes always think that someone's coming from a place of, good intentions, but this is essential. The next is to be consistent and respecting your colleagues' time and being kind and honest. So these are some ways on how we can build trust to then build this rapport and these coaching relationships. Being an effective peer coach takes time. Building this trust and relationships with colleagues takes time, does not happen overnight. This is definitely a type of program that is, you start small and you grow. The SWELL model, we do have a coaching cycle that some schools use, some schools don't, or adapt it to their own cycle. So in the center of it is just professional development, that commitment to ongoing professional development, whether it be in small groups like the video we saw, in larger groups like a full school PD, or whether it be that one-on-one peer coaching. So it always starts with this setting of instructional goals, and then conducting an observation, going into post-observation discussions, sharing instructional strategies, conducting a post-coaching observation, post-observation discussion, share instructional strategies, and back around and over. The idea and what we know about effective teacher professional development is that it is ongoing and not just a one-off. So the idea with SWELL coaching or any coaching program really is that you're having this continual cycle going on to support the teacher and have a significant impact on teacher practice and then an impact on student outcomes as well. So a voice from the field. This is from one of our teachers. I can see my ELs are having an easier time transferring knowledge from one space to another, and they have made significant gains in that. If their classroom teachers are incorporating these pieces into their content learning when they get separate language instruction, whether or not it's on the same topic, they're able to see that there is a connection as opposed to what has typically happened. Typically, they are siloed and they do language development, but it doesn't really relate to what they're doing in the classroom content area or vice versa. So this just goes to speak to the power of integrating content and language when they can really make those connections and see why they're learning this language and be able to then digest more content because they have those language skills already or are building on them. In addition, how powerful when they're seeing this same language instruction or receiving this language instruction across the entire school day, across the entire week and semester and year. It just helps reinforce what they're learning and again, make those connections between their classes. So part of the SWELL program is the SWELL action plan. The SWELL program from TESOL is a 3-workshop series, the 3rd workshop being the coaching and administrators workshop, the culmination of the whole program. And this is towards the end of the 3rd workshop when we sit down with our SWELL coaches in training and create an action plan. The action plan begins with needs analysis. Every school is different. Every district is different. I cannot possibly, know what every district needs. And the beauty of SWELL is that it really is site specific and is tailored to every single location. So every single school and district doing SWELL is doing it slightly differently to meet their needs. The needs analysis is just pertinent information about the English learner or ML population, information such as your home language spoken, language levels of each 4 domains, your speaking, reading, writing, and listening, educational backgrounds, unique needs, for example, refugee experiences, and then the struggles in the mainstream classroom. And this is a needs analysis that the school or the SWELL coach does either by themselves or ideally with other teachers or administrators at the school or district. The next is to set up SMART goals so that you are working towards a goal that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. If we have goals that are not achievable or not measurable or not relevant, they're likely to be forgotten or just revisited at the end of the year and you're like, oh, whoops, I guess we didn't meet that goal. And so we really focus on setting SMART goals. Some of the sample SMART goals for SWELL coaching that have been made are first example, by the end of the academic year, all general education teachers participating in one-on-one SWELL coaching will experience growth in student-to-student oral interaction. This will be measured by the SWELL support tool. Number 2, by the end of the academic year, 80% of general education teachers participating in one-on-one SWELL coaching will include an academic language objective at the word, sentence, or discourse level for each lesson they teach, measured through lesson plan review. Or 3, by the end of the academic year, 90% of gen ed teachers observed using the SWELL support tool will make an academic language objective visible to students orally and in writing, measured through self-reporting. These are just some examples of SMART goals that our SWELL coaches have made before. And again, they're all, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time sensitive. The next step after we have our needs analysis, our SMART goal, we then identify the supports and resources already available. Identify any systems, policies, norms that will support the ML teacher in your school over the next year. How might we capitalize on these? What supports do we still need? SWELL is not meant to come in and throw away all the amazing work that districts are already doing. If you are using science of reading, if you are using SciOp, whatever it is, SWELL is meant to come in and support you reach those goals that you already have. So for example, a lot of schools we've worked with have elevation data. And so part of their goal was to have the SWELL coach work with the content teachers to understand elevation data that was already there, but maybe they weren't sure how to use it, how to apply it to their classroom and their students. So it really is meant to just come in and support and help all the wonderful initiatives you already have going on, and not just be something that replaces all the great work you're already doing. Some key considerations for implementation of the SWELL school-wide English learning coaching framework is first garnering administrator buy-in. This is number 1 on the list for a reason. Without building level support, a building-wide initiative cannot succeed. So we highly recommend and encourage our SWELL coaches to partner with their administrators when creating their action plan so that they're on the same page. They recognize and are coming to decisions together and working towards those goals together. The second is to plan ahead. A great time to plan for ML teacher leadership is the year before implementation. Last-minute initiatives run the risk of contributing to teacher initiative fatigue and can get lost in the flurry of your other priorities. So it's a very much a plan ahead, start small. We've had many districts that start very, very small with only a couple coaches who are, doing these one-on-one coaching, or even just in, flybys in the hallway, supporting a teacher, suggesting a resource, suggesting something for a lesson plan. And many of those districts that started small like that now have 30, 40, 50 coaches with dedicated coaching time available as well, which is really powerful. What they were able to do is take the data from starting small to then use to talk to administration in the district to get that more dedicated time for coaching. And it's been really amazing, the impact that has seen. Next one is to recruit. Giving a brief presentation to your staff about what coaching is, what you're planning to do, so that they can be aware of what's coming. This can also help reduce any sort of anxiety around coaching. A lot of times people hear you're getting a coach and you're just like, oh my gosh, you feel like you're being evaluated or graded. And so just being very transparent from the beginning of what you're doing and why you're doing it is really crucial. And for recruiting, we always say to start with the friendlies. So that's number 4, start with the friendlies. It's better to start small with enthusiastic partners than to start big with teachers that aren't on board with the initiative. 5, again, to make sure that your SMART goal is SMART. Making sure it's specific and measurable and achievable and relevant and time-bound. This is critical to the direction and success of the initiative, and just making sure you're staying on track and choosing something that will work best for you, your school, and your fellow teachers. Fold into existing structures. Do you already have a professional learning community model at your school? Professional Development Tuesdays. We have many SWEL coaches who just join in with the PLCs. And that is how they deliver their coaching and professional development. We have other coaches who just do large group professional development. Their district has, set days every year that are dedicated to that, and the SWEL coach does some of those. And so just fold into the existing structures rather on top of them. This will help convince your colleagues that this isn't just one more thing. This is something to support what's already happening at your school. And 7, advocate for coaching time. We encourage our SWEL coaches to discuss with their administrator when coaching will happen. Coaches who allocate clear blocks of time report more success in the initiative. In some schools, this is simply a scheduling issue. In others, this may necessitate advocating for release time. So it really depends. There's no magic formula, but this ties into the need to plan ahead and to work with administrators so that you are both on the same page and know what is going on moving forward. The next one that we really base everything on is committing to continued learning. Accept that you won't be an expert at adult learning theory from the onset. Andragogy is different from pedagogy. Give yourself some slack and seek out opportunities for professional development in areas such as coaching, PD delivery, public speaking, and teacher leadership. For the SWEL workshop series that TESOL does, we have the first workshop of the series is contextual language. So digging into what does it look like to teach language and content. The second is a professional development workshop where we look at different PD plans that are all provided that they can work through on how to deliver them, different topics, how to choose the topics, how to adjust them for your setting. And the third one is that coaching and administrators workshop where we look into what is peer coaching and how am I supposed to be non-evaluative and how do I build those relationships with my administrators. So those are the 3 areas that this workshop series touches on, but we do always encourage our coaches to dig more into this because a lot of the times, as educators, we're very comfortable talking to our students, but if we get in front of a group of, adults, we freeze up and, it's a different story. So this is definitely an area that our coaches are encouraged to continue learning. And we always remind everyone that turning a ship and changing systems takes so much time and collaboration. changing school-wide systems is a very heavy lift. And setting reasonable goals for this year is essential. Next year will be a new opportunity for growth. And so just making sure those SMART goals are achievable and time-bound, so that you're not feeling defeated by the end of the year, but it gives you something to build on and grow from. So one more voice from the field from one of our SWELL coaches is there were a lot of changes, small changes for our building since implementing the SWELL model. But I think the biggest thing for me was that there was a transformation of the mindset around ELs. It got our teachers, our admin, and everyone to realize that it's not an extra thing to serve our ELs, but it can be integrated into so much of what they're already doing. That was a huge eye-opening piece for them. They asked, how can I implement it into what I'm already doing, and how do I make it relevant for these kids? Seeing that transformation was kind of amazing, because even in the math department, with everyone thought, okay, well, how much language is there in math? They were like, oh my gosh, there are all these things that I can be doing that I'm kind of doing now. But now I just look at it and I'm like with more of an intentional eye, and it makes more sense. It's kind of amazing. I built those relationships. I had the support of the administration. Those are really key components to making that all happen. So I want to leave a couple minutes for any questions you guys might have. Thank you so much for coming to this webinar. It was a pleasure to have you all. But like I said, I would want to leave the last couple of minutes for any questions you might have about anything discussed. This recording will be available. I know some of you joined a little bit late, so if you want to watch the first part of it, we will share the recording with you all. But yeah, I'll leave the last couple minutes for questions. And if anyone needs to hop off, feel free to do so. But thank you so much for coming.